Hey, what's up YouTube, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to share some of my testing that I did with Thoma and Hu Tao Vaporize because I think there are some interactions that is not exactly clear, especially if you're not looking very close at it. So I'm going to be taking you through my whole discovery process and showing you guys the interactions between Hu Tao and Thoma Vapes. We're going to walk through a bunch of the tests that I did and try to break it down, figure out what's going on between these two guys, and really figure out if these two really are good for each other, because at the end of the day, we want Hu Tao to be able to vaporize as consistently as possible. Let's go ahead and just take a look at the first test, and I equipped my Hu Tao with a very weak weapon just so that we can see the interaction with the vaporize. I didn't want to kill any of the enemies, and what's happening here is that you can clearly see some 5,000 damage numbers here, and then at the end we see a couple of 9,000 damages. This does mean that her first couple of hits did not actually vaporize, or it did not vaporize properly, because 4,000 is very clearly a much lower number than 9,000. Next test was against a Primo Geo Bishop because he had a lot more HP and his hitbox was supposedly supposed to be bigger, but it actually ended up being a little bit worse because we actually whiffed some of our charge attacks. It actually turns out that the Primo Geo Bishop's hitboxes are kind of wonky. So the same thing happens here. On the very first hit, we see a 5k, but a lot of the hits after that don't hit a crit, so it's kind of hard to tell. But then we also do see a couple of 9ks at the end. So clearly something happened here so that our beginning hits didn't quite vaporize, but then our later hits did. I switched back into the Staff of Thoma in our second Primo Geo Bishop test because this guy has way more HP. Here we can see a couple of 49k charged hits, so that's a very good indicator that she is vaping properly. But some of the hits in the middle start hitting for about 22k. That means those hits did not properly vaporize. And we saw a 32k for the final charged hit. So seeing 3 different damage numbers clearly indicates that Hu Tao is not vaping correctly, or just not as consistently. Our third Primo Geo Bishop test wasn't a very good test because we whiffed a lot on his really weird hitboxes, and we just weren't getting very many crits here. We saw a couple of 42ks, and we saw a 14k and a 20k. I think those numbers are just a little bit too random to really draw any conclusions, so I ended up moving to a more stationary target, the Pyro Regisvine, and I re-equipped it a weak weapon because I didn't want to kill him. So here we can see we hit 8,700, and that is very clearly a Hu Tao vape, but then we hit a couple of 4,500s, which is not a Hu Tao vape. We retry the test again, so that means half of Hu Tao's attacks are vaping and the other half isn't. We run the test a third time, and again, the results are very similar. About half the hits are hitting for about 8k, and the other half of the hits is hitting for about 4k. So Thoma is definitely causing some inconsistencies here. We run the test once again, and we managed to hit a 20k, 2 20ks at the very start. And then we start hitting some 8ks, and then we hit another 4k, and another 8k, and then another 8k. So what happened there was that Kazuha swirled and gave us some extra damage bonus. That's why we saw the 20k. And then the 8ks was just a regular vape from Hu Tao without any Kazuha damage bonuses. And then the 4k we saw was obviously not a Hu Tao vape. So that means Thoma stole just one of those charged vapes. Here I tried to change up the combo a little bit. I tried doing a couple of normal attacks before I do a Hu Tao charge attack to make sure that I'm actually applying the hydro first. However, the result is really similar. The first 2 hits was a 20k vape, which means a vape from Hu Tao with Kazuha buff. So the 4k means that Hu Tao didn't vape, and the 8ks mean that Hu Tao did vape. In this test, once again, I try adding a couple more normal attacks before doing a charge attack, and result is again very similar. We see some 8ks, but then we see a couple of 4ks, which means that some of those charge attacks did not get vaped properly by Hu Tao. Here I went back to just spamming the charge attacks, and our very first charge attack hit for only 11k. Remember that we're supposed to be seeing 20k with the Kazuha buff. That means that very first charge attack, Hu Tao did not vape. But the charge attacks after that was very consistently hitting for 8k. We tried the test once again without Thoma, and here I'm just spamming charge attacks, and we are pretty much always seeing 8k every single time. And on the second run, we are very consistently hitting 8k basically every single time. So what do these tests tell us about Thoma and Hu Tao? It definitely tells us that sometimes your Thoma will take a vape or two from your Hu Tao, but not all of the time. This means that at the end of the day, it's just very inconsistent whether or not Thoma is going to steal a vape or not. There's probably some kind of very strict and optimal combo that you can do to make sure Thoma doesn't take any of Hu Tao's vapes, but it's probably not going to work for every matchup, and you'll probably have to make micro adjustments depending on the enemies that you fight, which in my opinion doesn't sound very easy. So if you're looking for comfiness and consistent vapes, then Thoma is probably not the go-to. You saw that when we dropped Thoma from the team and just used Xing Chu and Hu Tao was very consistently hitting those charged vape attacks. Even when we weren't adding any extra normal attacks into the combo, we just simply spammed our charge attacks. This video was just supposed to tell you and let you know that your Thoma can and will sometimes take your Hu Tao's charge attack vapes. This does not mean that you shouldn't use Thoma and Hu Tao together. Some of the other benefits that Thoma provides is obviously his shield and the ability to swirl Pyro and shred that Pyro to give your Hu Tao even more damage. This is just one of those things that you'd probably want to know if you decide to run Thoma with your Hu Tao. You can always just pay attention to the hydro application on the enemies. Make sure that the hydro application is properly applied before doing your charge attacks. But again, you know, that's going to take some extra brain power, and you'll have to be able to properly react to it if you want to consistently vape your charge attacks with Hu Tao and Thoma. Thank you guys all so much for watching, especially if you made it this far. I appreciate you especially. But anyway, guys, don't forget to check out the Twitch. Don't forget to check out the Discord. All of those links are down in the description below. They're great places to talk about Genshin and other things as well, so make sure to at least check them out. I hope this video was helpful to you guys. Don't forget to leave a comment down below, like the video, and maybe even consider subscribing to the channel. And until next time, I will see you guys later.